not arrogantly, not selfishly, but humbly, I will continue to every day show you how hardworking your mayor, the mayor of the city of Fall River, is. And I will not resign.
Welcome to FRCMedia News for Thursday, October 18th, 2018. I'm Keith Tebow. That's Mayor Jaziel Correa earlier this week addressing the media and his supporters, adamantly arguing his innocence against 13 federal wire and tax fraud charges lodged against him just last week. And we'll have complete coverage during this program. And later in the show, we'll begin our look at the 3 ballot initiatives facing voters at the November 6th state election. This week, we look at question 2. Let's get right into what has transpired this past week with the charges facing Mayor Correa. We bring in Will Richmond, the digital news editor at the Herald News. Will, welcome.
Thanks, Keith. Good to see you again.
Yeah, same here. Let's just first recap. Last week at this time when you were doing this program with Donna, we knew about the indictment. The U.S. attorney had spoken to the media. The mayor had not yet been arraigned at the time of the taping. Since then, the mayor was arraigned. He pled not guilty to all 13 counts, spoke to the media after the arraignment, said he would not resign. Then that led to a full weekend of discussion from people about the fate of Mayor Correa. And it was pretty much left up in the air until Tuesday, when Mayor Correa was announced that he was going to be making a statement before the media and the press and his supporters on Tuesday morning, an event we carried live here on FRCmedia. Let's hear a little more of the mayor from this past Tuesday.
I want to start off by saying, before I get into some comments, that, of course, last Thursday was the worst day of my life, certainly. It was not a proud moment, and a lot of people saw me come out of the federal courthouse in Boston with a smile on my face. And I'm here to tell you that that wasn't meant to be perceived as arrogance or pride or excitement, certainly, but I was nervous. It was a long day, and I was nervous, and I didn't know how to react. I, of course, had not been in that situation. And I was intimidated. A lot of cameras are here today, but there was a lot of cameras that day. And it was a long, long day. And I had my family, and I had so many people that were contacting me with such great messages, and they've continued all the way till this morning. And I just want to thank them so much, and I love my family who's here today, standing by me, and has been here every single day of my entire life. These allegations made against me that have nothing to do with my job as the mayor of the city of Fall River, and that stem all the way back to when I was 20 years old, are 100% false, and that I am innocent of every single one of these allegations. Why we ended at this stage of this 18-month investigation with all kinds of other craziness, that I know the reason too, because it was politically motivated. We had the son of an investor wanting a job in City Hall. I pointed in other directions, but that investor was suddenly disgruntled. We had former district attorneys upset that a 23-year-old beat them. We had my most recent opponent place their entire campaign on the fact that I would be indicted. This, from day one, began as a political attack on somebody that was challenging the norms here in Fall River. I have other duties that I was elected to perform, duties that I was reelected to still perform. And I have an incredible foundation of people, an incredible foundation of people.
Will, you were in the room during the mayor's remarks. I know that there have been a number of articles in the paper, not only reviewing what the mayor had to say, but also some of the ancillary parts of it. There was a wide contingent of city employees there. That calls into question that participation by employees for something that wasn't city related.
Yeah, certainly, I think it's fair to raise the question about the use of city resources the appearance of city employees. The mayor, through the city's IT director, had sent an email out inviting employees to attend the presentation on Tuesday morning. That email went out on Monday evening. Certainly, he stood behind the podium containing that holds the city seal. He was obviously inside Government Center when this happened. So certainly there were a lot of city resources used, city time. That presentation lasted about 45 minutes. That's 45 minutes that those employees were not working on city-related matters, but rather listening to what was essentially a 40-minute commercial for his old Snow Owl app. And so certainly I think it's a fair question to raise, as if that was the proper way to present that information and the proper location.
A lot of the discussion was whether and what role the Fall River City Council could have in potentially removing the mayor from office. There's a lot of questions concerning the newly enacted city charter, which was approved last year by voters. City Council met that evening, Tuesday evening, to discuss the matter. And right off the bat, after some public input from city residents, the city councilor, Sean Kadim, put up a motion that sought the temporary removal of the mayor and having the city council president, Cliff Ponte, take over in his stead. Many of the councilors were in favor of that motion, but one councilor, Stephen Camara, opposed to it and objected to it, stopping the vote. Here's Councilor Camara on what should take place in terms of removing the mayor.
It's not my responsibility. It is not this council's responsibility to take action to remove a mayor from office, either temporarily or permanently. There are three ways that a mayor can be removed from office. One is that the mayor can resign, and that's his choice. The second is that the mayor can be recalled, and that's the people's choice, because they are his boss. We're not his boss. The people elected him, the people elected us, the people are our boss. So the people can remove him from office through the recall process. Or third, he could be convicted of a felony, in which case then he would automatically be removed from office.
City Councilor Stephen Camara, who objected, there is a rule in the city charter that if one city councilor objects to an item before it, it will automatically be put off to the next meeting, which in this case will be next Tuesday, when the City Council will meet in a regular session. This past Tuesday was a special session of the council. There were two other motions up. One asking directly for the mayor to resign. Again, Councilor Camara, and also Joe Camara, by the way, the two Camara councilors voted to object. And a third motion, finally, again by Councilor Kadim, on a vote of no confidence, was also objected to. So those three motions could likely take effect next week. So are you hearing, Will, that these will come up again when the council meets on Tuesday?
I would think it's likely to. We'll certainly know for certain tomorrow when the regular meeting agenda is released. Generally, that comes out on Friday afternoons. So I would have to think at this point, especially since Council President Cliff Ponte, who is the one that is the one who has the ultimate say over what goes on the agenda, is among those who has urged Mayor Correa to resign. I would have to think that those items will appear on the agenda and that the council will have to vote on it. One of the facets of the charter is that objection can only take place once, I believe. So that same mechanism for blocking the vote can't happen again on Tuesday.
Yeah, and there again continues to be debate on whether the city council can in fact either temporarily, definitely, I think there's a consensus that the city council cannot permanently remove the mayor, as Councilor Camara noted, either through a resignation by the elected official, a recall, or a conviction. But there's still some dispute as to whether the city council can temporarily relieve a mayor of his position. There was discussion about if that would go through, whether the mayor would seek an injunction following that. Again, that hasn't happened. It may happen next week. We'll have to see how that turns around. But one other thing that was gleaned from citizen input and confirmed the day after was the fact that a recall petition has been started by 10 city residents. And what's the process of that for those who don't remember the recall from a few years ago?
Yeah, sure. So at this point, even the process has changed a little bit because of the new charter. So, some of the similar things it has to be started with the signatures of 10 registered voters that will have to be certified by the elections office. And then that will kind of, once that certification takes place, that sort of starts the clock. The petitioners would have 20 days to get the equivalent of 5% of the number of registered voters at the time that it's certified.
Yeah.
So we're probably looking at an area, last we checked, there were just over 50,000 registered voters in the city. Yesterday was actually the deadline to register for the upcoming election, but people could still continue to register, just not be eligible for November's election. So that would mean we're looking at just a little bit more than 2,500 signatures of certified registered voters would be required in the city. They said they do have 20 days to collect that. And then if they are able to get that and get it certified, then that starts the clock on the recall process in terms of putting it on the ballot and making that part of it happen where it would go to the full range of voters.
It has been quite a week here in Fall River, and we will continue to follow it, and we'll also have more reaction a little bit later on. All right, Will, what's coming up over the next few days?
We'll continue to fully follow this the story of Mayor Jazel Correa's indictment and arrest, and the reaction to his decision not to resign. And we'll also be digging into the issue of St. Anne's Church closing, which also came on weekend following his arrest. So a lot of big things happening here in Fall River currently.
All right, Will, we'll talk again next week. Take care.
All right, have a good weekend, Keith.
We'll have more FRC Media News after this.
Here are some job descriptions on the latest hot jobs list from the Mass Hire Fall River Career Center. General Surgical Hospitalist. South Coast Health, located at 363 Highland Avenue, is looking for a full-time general surgical hospitalist to perform a wide variety of patient care and related duties to support the overnight physicians at Charlton Memorial Hospital. Job number 1113-8207. Food Service Assistant. Citizens for Citizens, located at 427 Robeson Street, is seeking a full-time food service assistant to assist the head cook with food preparation, food distribution, and cleanup. Job number 1114-2238. Seamstress. Alexandra's Boutique, located at 1321 South Main Street, is in need of an experienced seamstress to sew, hem, and tailor formal bridal gowns. Job number 11140826. The Fall River Public School Department, located at 417 Rock Street, is looking to fulfill the following full-time positions. Coach Interventionist. Job number 11142272. Assistant Wrestling Coach. Job number 11142248. Friendly's, located at 372 South Main Street, is looking to fulfill the following full-time positions. Delivery Driver, job number 11140983. Ice Cream Scooper, job number 11141036. For more information on these or other positions, visit Mass Hire JobQuest at jobquest.detma.org or call the Mass Hire Fall River Career Center at 508-730-5000.
Welcome back. We've heard from Mayor Correa and a member of the Fall River City Council, but what are city residents thinking? We had the opportunity to speak to some people this past week since the indictment took place. Prior to last Tuesday's City Council meeting, there was a small gathering of citizens outside Government Center rallying to seek the mayor to resign. Here's one of them, Deborah Wages.
Sorry to say I did vote for him this latest election.
Now, did the indictment then change your mind?
Well, absolutely. When he came walking out of that Boston federal courthouse, I thought it was a campaign event.
Well, he did explain during his press conference, though, that he was just nervous. What's your reaction to that?
Oh, yeah. I got a laugh out of that, too, at this morning, 11 o'clock press conference that he gave. The nerve to say he didn't want to seem, because his lawyer must have told him, that you shouldn't have acted like that. So cavalier, like, hey, people, smiling. not the seriousness of all those charges.
So you don't buy the fact that he was nervous?
No, I don't. Absolutely, I don't. Because he's always so confident otherwise. He's always been very confident. That's how he fooled us all and got elected.
After the meeting, former City Councilor Ray Mitchell lent his thoughts on how the council should have proceeded.
I got to be honest, I was very disappointed that the vote didn't continue. I really believe that the people of Fall River should have known how their councilors felt, and what they did is prevented that from happening. A vote should have happened here tonight and let the process move forward. I honestly believe that, unfortunately, this city is not going to move as long as this indictment is hanging over our head. The city right now is under a dark cloud, and unfortunately that cloud will not be removed until such time as Jaisal Correa leaves that office. And I would call on Jaisal Correa to leave that office the sooner the better, because it's not personal, it's just what's best for this city.
Stay with FRC Media News as we continue to follow this developing story. We'll have more right after this.
Hi, welcome to Hot Dogs and Cool Cats. Today we have Brownie. Brownie here, he's a 2-year-old pitty. I don't know if you can tell, he's more or less just a big baby. Don't let his size intimidate you. He's actually very sweet. Enjoys a good play, but mostly he just kind of likes to hang out with people. Here in the kennel, he's a little bit of a fraidy dog. He never wants to come in for night. He always wants to just stay out, enjoy the sun, that sort of thing, which who can blame him, right? But he's a very sweet boy. If you'd like to come and meet him, we're located at 300 Linwood Street in Fall River, Massachusetts, and at Forever Paws Animal Shelter. Welcome to Hot Dogs and Cool Cats. Today we have Cinnamon. Cinnamon down here is a rabbit of different mixed species, and she's got a harlequin coat here. As you can see, she's a little bit timid, she's a little bit stressed out, but she's a very nice bunny. Cinnamon here is 5 years and 4 months old. As you can see, she's got a very big body, little tiny head, and the ears, especially when she's got them tucked down, they look very tiny. Just like I was saying, like we think she's mixed, so it would help explain some of her more bizarre features. But she's a very cute bunny, as you can see. She's good with her handling and all that. She lets you pet her, all the good stuff. But like I said, because she's stressed right now, she's a little jumpy, so I'm not going to try it. Right, Cinnamon? See, she's a nice bunny. So if you'd like to come and see Cinnamon, you can see us at 300 Linwood Street here in Fall River, Massachusetts. We're at Forever Paws Animal Shelter.
Now let's bring in an advocate that is pushing the no on 2 coming up at the November election. I'm joined by Paul Craney. He represents the Massachusetts Fiscal Alliance. Paul, thank you for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on.
In a nutshell, why are you and your organization asking voters to vote no on question 2?
Well, if you vote no on question 2, what you're voting for is allowing more freedom of speech and preserving the right of the First Amendment. So that'd be preserving the right of freedom of speech and association. A yes on question 2 is voting to restrict your First Amendment rights. And actually, when you vote yes on question 2, you're actually asking lawmakers on Beacon Hill to come up with a plan to restrict your voice in elections and in public policy.
Now, the proponents of the question will say that they're concerned about the influence of corporations in elections, and the Citizens United ruling by the Supreme Court allowed corporations to donate funds to campaigns. What is your reaction to that response in terms of what they would like to do in terms of getting corporations out of elections?
Well, let me just tell you, first of all, it's illegal for corporations to donate money to candidates or to parties in Massachusetts, so that's not even a concern in our state. There's a lot of talking points out there, and a lot of them are misguided. Mm-hmm. One of them is that corporations can give money to candidates and campaigns, and like I said, in Massachusetts, that is already illegal. That's not even the debate that we're having.
Right.
What they are trying to do is restrict a court case called Citizens United. And what Citizens United essentially allowed to happen was that it allowed employers, unions, and individuals to be able to have the freedom of speech. That's all it did. When you look at campaign finance law, you need to look at it in a prism of two things. One, is it fair for everyone, and is it clear? That is so important. You got to be clear with your laws that you pass, this way everyone has a chance to follow it. And you have to be fair so that everyone has the ability to succeed with the law. Citizens United did nothing more than allow employers, unions, and individuals to be able to have a voice in elections, to be able to spend money how they like, to advocate, in some cases, to advocate for the election or defeat of candidates, but also just to advocate for issues.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's such a great idea to allow people to have voices that the ACLU, at the time of decision, came out publicly and supported as well. So we stand on the side of the ACLU on this issue. We stand on the side of the Constitution. We stand on the side of, more voices is a good thing. Allowing people to have, this is the people. This isn't elected officials or people in power. This is allowing anyone, including employers or unions, to have the ability to speak during election time.
We asked the proponents of the initiative to talk about how this commission will actually set up something that would actually be broader, which would actually be a constitutional amendment potentially on this issue. I asked them who were they working with nationally, because it's not just a Massachusetts issue in terms of what could come out of this. I'll ask you the same question. What other parties are you working with, say on a national basis, to try to limit this exposure?
So, who's on my side, I would say, in this argument is the U.S. Constitution, the Supreme Court, both political parties, and also any conservative and liberal organization that wants speech. So that's a lot of different voices. And the reason for that is because the Supreme Court ruled in this decision, and rightly so. They said it was unconstitutional to limit speech and association through Citizens United. And as a result of that, political parties, both the Republicans and Democrats, who control, different state governments, different legislatures, different members of Congress and the Senate and the presidency, they all take advantage of that right, and they speak freely.
Right.
And then on the political spectrum, conservative liberals, when they create advocacy organizations, they take advantage of it as well.
Right.
That is their right to have unrestricted speech during election time, so long as the Supreme Court rules, so long as it doesn't coordinate with the candidates that they're trying to elect or defeat, or the parties they're trying to elect or defeat.
Well, Paul Craney, I appreciate your time, and Paul Craney with Massachusetts Fiscal Alliance, asking people to vote no on question 2. Thank you for your time, and all the best.
Thank you, Keith.
The state election is coming up in just a couple of weeks, and there are 3 ballot questions on this year's ballot for those in Massachusetts to consider. And we'll be looking at the issues throughout the rest of this few weeks before the election. Today we're going to focus on question number 2. Question number 2 on the state ballot will look to create a citizens commission to look at potentially amending the U.S. Constitution to limit the influence of money in elections, and also with the intent on ensuring that corporations do not have the same rights as humans. We're joined now by Ben Gubitz. He is from American Promise, which is one of the sponsors of the initiative petition to vote yes on question number 2. Ben, thank you for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Ben, what was the impetus for this initiative?
Sure. So this initiative is to really solidify Massachusetts' stance as a state in favor of a 28th Amendment, as you said, to reduce the undue influence of money in politics and to look at this, examine the issue of corporate rights in our elections and government. The 28th Amendment will essentially overturn Citizens United via the Federal Election Commission and related Supreme Court cases that says that spending money in an unlimited amount of money in elections is equal to free speech, and that corporations have inalienable rights the same way that human beings do. Now, the idea for question 2 is that it will establish this nonpartisan volunteer citizens commission to look at these critical issues and examine how we get a more representative democracy with one person and one vote without having corporations, unions, and billionaires buy access and most of the influence, leaving average citizens without a voice in our democracy. And so question 2 will establish this commission. The commission will research, take testimony, issue reports on dark money in Massachusetts, and make recommendations to our congressional delegation on what the 28th Amendment could and should say.
Now, would there be any timeline in terms of the work of this commission? When would it even get started if this initiative passes?
The commission will get started right away. There's a open and transparent application process. There are 15 commissioners that will serve, again, as a volunteer basis, so at no cost to the taxpayers. And the commissioners are appointed by the Attorney General, the Secretary of State, the Governor, the Speaker of the House, and the Senate President, each of whom gets 3 appointments to the commission. That process will start right on January 1st when this law takes effect. The commission, which is written into the language of the proposal, the commission must be established and appointed by the end of April 2019, so we're going to get started right away.
Right. Now, in terms of the actions of the commission, the question mentions the fact that it could be, and you mentioned, creating a 28th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States. Are there other states that are doing something similar so that if this were ever to come to fruition, there'd be some cohesion as to a potential language of a 28th Amendment and an organization of the process? Or is your intention, your group, willing to take the lead on this?
Absolutely, and American Promise is taking the lead on this. For the record, 19 states all across the country have, in some form or another, be a ballot initiative or through their state legislative bodies, have passed resolutions calling for this 28th Amendment. There's an ongoing effort in many states all across the country to have their state become the 20th state to call for this type of reform. And American Promise is organizing and empowering local citizens in their communities to give them the tools and to help run the necessary campaigns to raise this issue to the top of the voters' minds as they head to the polls, on Election Day, and also to do things like run, to pass local resolutions, to pass statewide resolutions, to do ballot initiatives, to build champions in the media through writing letters to the editor and op-eds, doing grassroots lobbying training to really figure out how we work and become partners with our members of Congress to advance this historic amendment.
All right, Ben Gubitz from American Promise, the advocates for yes on question 2 in Massachusetts. Thank you for joining us, and all the best.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
That'll do it for this edition of FRC Media News. You can catch FRC Media News Thursdays and Fridays at 6 p.m. and every day other than Thursdays and Fridays on our website, frcmedianews.org. For all of us here at FRC Media News, I'm Keith Tebow. Have a great week, and we'll see you next Thursday.